Hello, friends. Robert Bevan here, author of the Caverns and Creatures series of comedy, fantasy novels, and short stories. With me is Sam West, and today we're talking about the spell Guardian of Faith. This is, I believe, a fourth level spell for what? Clerics. Yes, that makes
Clerics.
sense.
Oh, the Devotion Paladins, a couple other like sub classes and stuff, but for the most part, it's clerics.
All right. What does it do?
Okay, fourth level spell, cleric spell, cast time of an action, 30-foot range, 8-hour duration, which is kind of neat. I don't know
Yeah.
why it's got an 8-hour duration, but okay. It's a concentration school, whatever. Large spectral guardian appears and hovers for the duration in an unoccupied space of your choice that you can see within range. That guardian does no longer matters. That you can throw it out of your brain because it doesn't matter what the spell says. The guardian occupies the space is instant except for a gleaming sword and shield emblazoned with the symbol of your deity. Any creature hostile to you that moves to a space within 10 feet of the guardian, so basically 10-foot radius, on the first time on its turn makes a dex save, and if it fails, it takes 20 radiant damage. If it passes, it takes 10. And then the guardian goes away after it deals 60 damage total. So the gist of it is you get a giant area of radiant damage that sticks around and does damage as creatures enter into it. Specifically hostile creatures. They can detect if it's hostile towards you or not. If it's agnostic towards you or friendly towards you, it doesn't do any damage, which is nifty. There aren't a lot of spells that really care about like they're not necessarily they have a hard time telling the difference between friend and foe, and this one's like, yeah, no, if it hates you, it's harmful. So that's neat.
All right, so you're saying throw away the guardian figure because this is essentially area of effect in the form of a dude.
Yeah.
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 Still, you can't throw them away entirely. I mean, if not for the flavor of the spell, what are we doing here?
That's fair. It is technically flavorful. I don't see it being like, if the guardian could do anything else, if the guardian was like an invisible force that could like help you open doors or some shit, then at least the 8-hour duration make a little more sense.
Yeah,
like,
it's funny. It's got an 8-hour duration, but a limit of what, 60 hit points, and
yeah.
then it deals 60 hit points worth of damage, and then takes off.
Yeah,
That's interesting.
I'm getting like you cast this as the entrance to your Radiant dungeon. And then like the players have to be like, okay, well, it's been here for 4 hours. We can't really wait it out. I guess we just trudge right through it and just everyone make the save and hope for the best. And sometimes you take 20, sometimes you take 10, or you can just be like, all right, barbarian, run through it until 60 hit points worth of damage are gone. And then move on past that. But the 8 hours, almost, I can't imagine it mattering ever. Like I just don't think it's gonna come up. The base defense thing just doesn't happen, and the 60 HP is like, that's happening within 3 rounds. So like,
Yeah, you can't even use it like as a, you want to hunt for some food in the wilderness, and because the squirrels or rabbits or whatever you want to eat would have to be hostile towards you.
yeah.
So that's no fun either. Yeah, because man, you could put down some bait there, but no, unless
question.
you angered a deer first or something. I don't know. I'm sorry. Go on.
No, I'm googling. I'm googling Guardian of Faith some rulings real quick, just because I have a hunch it's going to come up in a second. But yeah, I think that this is a perfectly fine spell. I think this is, I would say, like right down the middle as far as like good cleric spells go. I really like this method of gating damage. So like with Fireball, the potential is you hit 12 creatures with it, and that, does the 25-ish damage times 12, and it's gigantic and enormous. But sometimes you only hit 2 and only does 50. With Guardian of Faith, it's like, it's a neat little trade-off. Clerics being more orderly, you get 60 damage. You get it, it'll happen to whatever number of creatures interact with the space around it, but it's never going to be more than 60. And that makes it a kind of a nifty little AoE damaging spell that is going to be, it's going to sometimes be more efficient than Fireball. There's going to be some fights where this does 60 damage to one thing, and that's pretty baller. There will be other fights wherever it does 10 damage to 6 things, and it feels a lot worse than Fireball in instance, but you get this neat little back and forth. You get this neat little balancing lever.
Or it does nothing, because this guy is visible, correct?
I mean, it says the Guardian occupies that space and is indistinct except for a gleaming sword and shield with your symbol's deity. But yes, you get
that's pretty distinct.
I wouldn't say indistinct has any business being in this in this spell description.
It's indistinct except for the flaming pink boa.
Yeah.
No, but
it's a very specific deity, but one we all respect.
Whatever. But yeah, I mean, if you're not like blocking off a passage with this, I feel like it's pretty easy to avoid.
So it also comes with the handiness. Oh, Any hostile creature that moves to a space within 10 feet of it for the first time on a turn. So hypothetically, you put this next to creatures, and if they move at all, it murks them. But if they don't move, it doesn't see them. It's like a T-Rex. We might have to break that down in a second. But like, yeah, I think there'll be a lot of fights, especially in the mid to upper tiers. And that's whenever this starts coming to play, right? Where the monsters go, ugh, okay, we accept that we're going to have to run through some damage. We accept that we're going to have to pass by the Guardian of Faith, or we're going to have to, like, the party's going to set up defensively to be like, if you want to come at us, you're going to have to be standing next to a Guardian of Faith that's going to beat your ass. And that can be fairly reliable, I think, in a good hand, like a good chunk of fights. You'll be able to say, I'll be able to put this Guardian of Faith somewhere. Some amount of creatures are going to move in to take damage from it. I don't know if it's like 100% given in every fight. Creatures specifically that are like cowardly or like to skirmish, this spell's basically dead, and that's fine. Spells allowed to be dead in some fights. But like as far as like back to front fights where you're just like two big barbarian teams smashing into each other, and you're the cleric in the back of the one, you just throw this down. The other enemy barbarians get 60 points of damage shredded from them as they run into the space, and then they collide with your other barbarian. 60 hit points fewer.
What about as a divination tool? If you don't know if somebody's hostile towards you or not, do you see that being useful here at all?
I think that being very funny. I don't know if I even call that useful, but I call that very funny. So like, I'd have to check the specific rules on feeling, like on nature, but I think, oh god, I don't know. I don't want to say like doesn't work that way, because a creature's hostility to you implies they're actively about to attack you. So maybe if you're like, I wonder if this person's randomly about to attack me, and you just stick next to your Guardian of Faith for 8 hours and it just punches whoever tries to sneak up on you, that could be neat. So like as a tool to detect like an invisible stalker or something, it seems nifty. But as far as like, I wonder if there's a spy among us that wants us dead, I find it a little bit of a harder sell to call that spy hostile. I just don't think that word, like, it might be that that's the game term for it. I wouldn't call as a DM that a spy that wants you dead hostile. I would just say like, yeah, they understand that they need to be cool here and need to pretend to like you and stuff.
Well, I don't know. That was something I was going to give it a little credit for, but now I'm not so sure.
I think some DMs will let that happen. If you're trying that as a DM, whenever I'm DMing for you, I absolutely will rule in your favor 100% of the time, because that's way more fun, right? Anytime you're using a spell that tries to like bend the rules a little bit in a nifty way to get it to do something that it doesn't normally do, and like this spell isn't like robustly powerful, so I don't think it's something that like pushes it out of line or anything. I'm 100% on board with being like, yeah, why not? This can be a neutrality detector. This can detect hostility. Why not?
But even
it's
still,
an expensive way to do it.
And also, you've got all your friends lined up, and okay, everybody walk through it like it's a metal detector or something.
This just goes right along with my Zone of Truth Fridays, where it's just like, okay, everybody, we're gonna have a sit down, and we're all gonna talk about what we did last week, and you're gonna have to pass by the Guardian of Faith, and if you get smacked upside the head, you know what you did.
All right, well, we shouldn't waste too much more time on my silly idea. So anything else you got to say about this spell? I do think it's interesting. It's got the defined 60 points. It's got it hits you with its sword, and it does 20 damage or half that. That's not a lot of spells work that way.
True.
As well, I mean, all right, they do, except they don't look like, they don't, it doesn't have the appearance of someone attacking. You think he's attacking me with a sword, I'm going to take some random amount of damage. No, I'm taking 20 or 10.
Mm-hmm. And I think there's a comfort in the consistency. I think that there's like if you're taking 20 or 10 damage when you walk within range of it, you're just like, yeah, this always does that. It's always a good chunk, and I'm happy with that. That makes me personally very happy.
I embrace the chaos.
Yeah. I will say I am not positive on how much damage is reduced if this drops a creature to 0. So like if, let's say it does 20 damage, something with 15 hit points, I don't know if you subtract 20 from its damage or 15. I would rule again as a DM the 15 is perfectly fine, because it's not like the overkill damage. It doesn't go to -5, it goes to 0. But that's going to vary DM to DM, and it's also going to vary based off the rules that I'm trying to blitz through to find it, but Lord knows it's not particularly easy to find specifics on overkill damage. So yeah, I would talk to your DM about that if there's something you're concerned about, or if you find it like readily happening. Like if your Guardian of Faith's job is to mow down zombies, and you just take it inside of a zombie horde and they're just running past it, that's going to be a really big difference, because it's either going to kill one around for like, or it's going to kill a bunch of them or it's gonna kill like a half or like 3 or 4, and it's gonna entirely vary based off of, you know, how many hit points they actually lose, right? Because if let's say you're looking at 10 HP things, if they all fail it, it kills either 6 of them or it kills 3 of them, depending on if it's 20 or 10 damage, and that's something that you probably would want to hash out.
All right, well, are we done with this one?
I mean, there's not a ton to talk about here. It's just a giant AoE Guardian of damage. Maybe you do it for intimidation tactics. Be like, don't look at me or my son ever again, and it's just big old Guardian statue. I think that's cute. I don't think it's particularly good. It's not bad by any stretch. This is a perfectly serviceable damage spell that's pretty consistent. It's just a neat little gimmick. Like you said, there's gonna be creatures that have no problem avoiding it. There are other creatures that are just gonna be like, yeah, screw that. I'm plowing right through it anyway. I got balls. That thing's only large. I'm gargantuan. Screw it. For that, I think this is perfectly 3 out of 5. This is a reasonable damage cleric spell. This is what I would want a damage cleric spell to look like.
Yeah, if he could move around or something, I'd be more into it. I'm gonna give it a 2. I'm not thrilled with this one.
Fair. I definitely think like it could use a small bit of quality of life updates like that. Being able to like move it around, especially for the 8 hours, like let it at least follow you around or something, right? Yeah. If it's gonna be a physical creature, you might as well let it move. If
it could move, or if it was invisible, then at least it could be like a trap for your enemies or whatever. But yeah, as it stands, I think it's a solid 2.
Okay.
All right. Well, that was Guardian of Faith. Thank you, Sam, and thank you, everyone, for joining us. We will see you next time. Bye-bye. Thank you for watching. If you found this helpful, informative, or entertaining, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the like button below. You needn't smash it. A gentle tap will suffice. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to the channel. And make sure you check out the links in the description, where you'll find my Caverns and Creatures series of comedy fantasy novels, Sam's full review of the spell, and other fun things.